Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Libra for January 2016. Check out my website, anniehelpsyou.com, or click on the link below this video. You can see more about my new Creating Successful Online Business course that is open for registration now. And while you're there, sign up for my free email newsletter and get all the perks that come along with being part of my email community. So what's going on in January? I am starting out these videos this month by talking about the fact that this is not a new year astrologically. And this is a really important note. We could pass over this truth if the stars were different in January. Sometimes in January it lines up that there's a bunch of great aspects for newness, even though it's not technically a new year. And so at those times, it's a little bit easier to gloss over this fact that we all seem to ignore, that it's not really a new year. In the solar-based calendar, it's a new year. But the solar-based calendar is not the astrological calendar, and the astrological calendar shows the true energy of what's happening. So at the end of March is when the astrological calendar turns over into the new year, and that's when all of this bursting forth energy, the planets moving into Aries, it's like the rush of newness and freshness. January is not that time. Capricorn energy, a lot of the planets will be in Capricorn, can be very productive. So it's not that it can't be productive. But Mercury is going to be in retrograde. And if you know about Mercury retrograde, that really is all I need to say. If you don't know about Mercury retrograde or you want to know more about it, check out my video just on Mercury retrograde called Mercury Retrograde, and you can search for Annie Botticelli on YouTube. We're not going to talk about all the implications of this transit, but you need to know this because if you're tabling all of these things from the holidays, if you're saying, oh, I'm going to take care of all of this stuff, I've got this huge list of stuff I'm going to do after the holidays in January. Some of the things on the list might be things that are suitable for a retrograde, going back over, redoing things, reanalyzing things, resting, retreating, things like that. But if what you're doing in January is bursting forth with this new this, bursting forth with this new that, the energy is not aligned for you there. So it's really important to understand the energies at play. That's why I do these videos. I want you to understand the vibe of the month so that we know what we're working with, so you can line things up in a way that carries your actions further. If you're trying to get off a deserted island that you got stuck on when you made this boat, you don't want to push it out when the tide is coming in. And in January, the tide is coming in. So you don't want to push your boat out. You want to work on the boat. You want to make sure you have a contingency plan. You want to strengthen the boat. You want to have an extra backup boat that's on the side of the boat. Those are the kind of things that you want to do in January before you launch off when the stars get better for that. Now, if there are things that you really need to push forward, and you're watching this before January, there are quite a bit of good energy in December for pushing new things forth. Once we start to get closer to Christmas, like December 20th and the days after that, it's getting to be where it's starting to go backwards. There's a lot of challenges at the Christmas time and the other holidays that happen at the end of that period of time. But the first several weeks in December, a lot of days are really good for getting some new things. So if you go over that information that I talked about in December, you can also sign up for my free email newsletter and you get a write-up of good dates and challenging dates, etc., that you can align your missions with. So you have a chance, if you're watching this early, to take care of launching some things now so that when January comes, you're continuing the things you already launched. You're redoing or reworking on the things that were already in process. And that is where you want to be. You either want to be where you're redoing and reworking on things you already launched, or you want to be in the process of preparing something for a launch. If you've made a New Year's resolution or more than one, I don't want to discourage you from working on yourself because I'm all about that. But if you find that you're not having the steam, or you're losing it in January, I don't want you to be too hard on yourself because it's just the nature of the energy to not be conducive to pushing forward. We've got some really strong aspects with Pluto, which have to do with going inward. We've got a new moon in Capricorn on January 9th, and the day before that, Jupiter goes retrograde, and the day before that, there's a square with the Sun to Uranus. So, there's just all of these things that suggest a slowing down, a being aware, a going backwards. There's definitely more than one thing that's going on in January. But just for some official dates here, January 5th is when Mercury goes retrograde. January 25th is when it goes direct. The days before it goes retrograde, so like from January 1st on, really, and the days after. So really the whole month is not good for making set plans. If you have to make set plans, you want to have backup plans, because there's very likely going to be changes to the plans that you make, which is totally okay, especially if you factor them in. Like if you have to get plane tickets for that time, or you're buying plane tickets in that time for another time, get the ones that if you make the change, you're not going to pay an outrageous change fee. Those kind of things, because you just anticipate the changes and then it spares you from having trouble. So we also have a strong focus for Libra for the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th house. Different planets in those houses for different Libra placements, early, middle, and late. But nonetheless, those houses are accentuated for each of you regardless. The 2nd house is the house of finances and material possessions. So focusing on income, making spreadsheets, balance sheets, figuring out your budget, looking at items of value, reevaluating things, pricing things, assessing value of things, selling, buying, things like that. I don't usually recommend selling things of value in a Mercury retrograde. While it is a good time to research a price on it, there's a pretty good chance that once you sell it, you'll figure out you could have gotten a better deal somewhere, and maybe you change your mind about keeping it. So things of great value. Now, if it's what I call low-hanging fruit, like something you don't really care about either way, that's fine to get rid of those things. And it's actually good to get rid of those things when Mercury's in retrograde. Clearing things up, organizing things, taking a step back. There is a child close to me who's homeschooled that said something very profound that affected me, and it very much relates to the energy of this month, so I want to share it to illustrate this point. When a child is homeschooled and doesn't have to get up and rush and drive to school and go to do that whole thing, they have more time to think about bigger things other than, I gotta get ready, I gotta go. And this is the same for adults, which is why I'm using this point. So he said, tomorrow I think I'm going to watch the movement of the sun. 7 years old, profound, rocked my world for so many different reasons, right? But this illustrates the energy of January. January is a time where it's good to pull back a little bit and watch what's going on, get in tune with the energy and the rhythm that's at play in the world, in your life. Always being on turbocharge all the time is not good for anybody. And it's kind of like the Shavasana at the end of a yoga practice, that 5 minutes where you lay down, or 10 minutes that you lay down and integrate all of the active work that you did, is actually, many yoginis and yoga people will say, it's the most important part of the practice. That couple of minutes where you integrate and take that quiet time. And that's what Mercury retrograde represents energetically at this period of time in life when everything is so busy. It's the time to pull back a little bit, and during that time you get these fresh insights, you get more awareness, you get clarity about direction. But if you don't honor that pulling back voluntarily, then the universe works it out to make more things a trouble for you, to make you pull back. So do you want to spend that time being aggravated and stressed about the things that are impeding you, or do you want to say, hey, this is what she was talking about, maybe I need to watch the movement of the sun? Not that you stare at the sun all day and watch it. It's an awareness, it's an anchor point, it's a checking in with where you are versus where everything is at and what else is going on in the world. It's very profound. So that energy is all related to finances, your getting your financial security. It also has to do with the 3rd house, which does have to do with communication and transportation. For many of you, there's a long-term theme going on with communication having to do with Saturn. But in any case, there's also a short-term focus on how you communicate, how you share information, your vehicles, things like that. So you might see some things come up. If you have a burst of energy or a burst of money come in December, maybe put a little aside that possibly some car repairs might come up. This is common during Mercury retrograde, but more common when you have something going on in your 3rd house. So then you'll have it if you need it. Also, there's strong focus for Libras on the 4th house, which is home and family and childhood and upbringing. It's actually homes, like real estate also, so construction things involving home, or things having to do with houses, or things having to do with home, the feeling of home. So Libras are going to have a strong focus on that in January as well. So I can't see what's going on in your chart. I would like very much to. If you would like to have a personal reading with me, you can go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com. Check out the links for that. You can also check out my programs, my automated programs, and my live program, Creating Successful Online Business. Very exciting. I've been waiting to offer this course to you, and it is officially launching in December, but if you're watching this in January, there's more of a passive part that's happening in December, so you can still register in January as well. So check that out on my website. Check out my 28-day virtual coaching program called Shine, which is intended to help you bring your shine into the world and is available on a sliding scale. And I hope you have a wonderful, happy new year, even if it's not a year, and have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.